Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to break down an absolutely incredible concept from Stephen Duneier all about how you can actually achieve your most impossible dreams. Look, if you've ever felt like your biggest goals are just out of reach, maybe because you think you lack some magical innate talent, well, you are definitely going to want to pay close attention to this. We're going to see how massive, awe-inspiring achievements aren't actually born from sudden leaps of genius. Nope, they come from tiny, completely manageable marginal adjustments. I'm honestly so excited to guide you through this framework because it literally changes the math on what you and I are capable of achieving.
Okay, let's dive into this by challenging a pretty common assumption. If I asked for a show of hands right now, how many of you genuinely believe you could accurately draw a photorealistic portrait of Brad Pitt using nothing but a pencil and paper? I'm guessing most of you are thinking, yeah, no way, right? It feels like this daunting, impossible artistic task that's strictly reserved for people who are just naturally gifted. It feels like a massive leap. But what if the problem isn't actually your lack of talent? What if it's simply the way you're approaching the task itself?
Let's shift our perspective for a second. Instead of trying to replicate a masterpiece all at once, how many of you believe you could draw a single, solid gray square? I mean, everyone, right? Well, think about it. If you can draw one gray square, you can draw two. You can draw 9. This is actually the exact method used by Chuck Close, who is one of the highest-earning artists in the entire world. He creates these massive, mind-blowing photorealistic portraits simply by breaking the image down into a grid and filling in one basic square of color or gray at a time. This approach totally levels the playing field. It proves that what stands between us and our most ambitious dreams actually has way less to do with magical skill and pretty much everything to do with how we break down problems and the micro decisions we make to solve them.
Let's move away from art for a minute and look at some hard data in the sports world. Consider the career trajectory of tennis legend Novak Djokovic. Back in 2004, he was ranked 680th, making about $250,000 a year. Not bad. But by 2007, he's ranked 3rd, raking in $5 million. And then, by 2011, he's the undisputed #1 men's player in the world, earning $14 million in prize money alone and winning a staggering 90% of his matches. Those are massive, unbelievable macro outcomes. But here's the secret. Djokovic didn't actually have direct control over his ranking, or the prize money, or the sheer volume of his match wins. Those are just the end results.
Now, what's really interesting here is the single number, 55%. What Djokovic did control were the tiny, micro decisions he made during a match. In tennis, a typical point involves just 1 to 3 decisions. Let's call this his decision success rate. When he was ranked 680th, his decision success rate was about 49%. To become #3 in the world and jump to making $5 million a year, he just had to bump that rate up to 52%. And to become the absolute greatest player in the world, he only needed a 55% decision success rate. He didn't need to be absolutely perfect, he just needed a marginal improvement in his process to massively tip the probability in his favor. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, sure, that's Novak Djokovic. He's an elite athlete. What about the rest of us normal people? Fair point. Let's look at Stephen Duneier himself. He is not some naturally disciplined genius. In fact, from kindergarten all the way through his high school graduation, every single report card he got said the exact same thing. Stephen is a very bright young boy, if only he would just settle down and focus. But he couldn't. He really wanted to, but he simply could not focus for more than maybe 5 or 10 minutes at a time. And because of this, he was a consistent C- student straight through a sophomore year of college. But then, in his junior year, he finally decided to stop being a spectator to his own lack of focus and actually become an active participant. Instead of pretending he could suddenly sit down and study for hours on end, he just assumed he wouldn't. So he made a marginal adjustment. If he was assigned 5 chapters to read, he didn't think of it as this big, scary 5-chapter mountain. He broke it down into tasks requiring only 5 to 10 minutes of focus. Step 1, read 3 or 4 paragraphs. Step 2, get up, shoot some hoops, play a quick video game. Step 3, come back and switch to a completely different task for another 10 minutes. And guys, by making this tiny adjustment to his process, this unfocused C- student became a straight A, Dean's List student, and eventually a wildly successful top-tier hedge fund manager. Fast forward a few years. He's working as an executive in London, and Duneier realizes he was using these marginal adjustments for his career, sure, but not for his personal, ambitious goals. Let's look at the hidden math of his daily routine back then. His walk to work through Hyde Park was 45 minutes each way. That's an hour and a half a day, which means, actually, that adds up to 7.5 hours a week. And as the math reveals, that compounds into 360 hours a year of awake, aware time that he was basically just wasting listening to music on his iPod. That is a massive amount of invisible time just waiting to be harnessed.
So he decided to make a marginal adjustment to that commute. He bought 33 German language CDs, ripped them, and loaded them onto his iPod. But remember, he knows his own nature. He is fundamentally undisciplined. He knew the temptation to skip the heavy language lesson and just go back to his favorite songs would eventually win out. So he hacked his own indiscipline. He completely removed every single song from his device. He left himself with literally only one option: listen to the language tapes. And after 10 months of this tiny daily habit, he went to Berlin and was able to speak fluidly with the locals in German, all from a tiny adjustment to a walk he was already taking anyway. So the crucial point is how you break down the goal. Back in 2007, Duneier was 25 pounds overweight and really wanted to get in shape. Instead of swearing off junk food entirely or buying some expensive gym membership he'd never use, he set a goal to hike all 33 trails in the Santa Barbara Mountains. But here's the thing. The goal isn't really the trail, it's the micro decisions. Consider the true anatomy of a hike. The hardest decision isn't made when you're exhausted at the top of the mountain. It's made when you are lying comfortably on the couch. Step 1, put down the remote. Step 2, put on your hiking clothes. Step 3, walk out the door and shut it behind you. If you don't make that exact right micro decision on the couch, the top of the mountain literally never happens. And the crazy thing is, when you start making those correct micro decisions, the results snowball rapidly. Look at these compounding achievements over just a couple of years. He successfully hiked all 33 trails multiple times. He lost the 25 pounds. He finished the Pier to Peak Half Marathon, which is known as one of the hardest in the world, by the way. He then applied the exact same logic to reading. He knew he couldn't focus on a whole book, so he just focused on putting his phone down and reading a single word, which led to a page, then a chapter, and eventually, he read 50 entire books. Of course, it's super important to remember that not every ambitious goal goes exactly as planned, which honestly keeps this whole process wonderfully grounded. In 2012, Duneier set 24 new resolutions, including 12 charitable acts that couldn't just involve writing a check. But look at these hilarious failures. He tried to donate blood, but got rejected because he lived in the UK during a certain time frame. Okay, fine. He tried to donate sperm, but they told him he was too old. He even tried to donate his hair, and yeah, it turns out absolutely nobody wants gray hair. It's just a great reminder that the journey of marginal adjustments is really about the process, not about getting perfect outcomes every single time.
Now, alongside those giving resolutions, he also committed to learning 12 new skills. After mastering random things like unicycling and parkour, his wife suggested he learn to knit. He wasn't exactly thrilled at first, but then came the pivot. He was sitting miles up a mountain trail, staring at this massive eucalyptus tree, and he had a truly bizarre thought. That tree would look really cool if it were covered in yarn. So he Googled it and discovered yarn bombing, which is the act of wrapping public structures in knitted yarn. And guess what? The International Yarn Bombing Day was exactly 82 days away. So he had a massive, ambitious goal and a super strict deadline. What did he do? He applied his framework. For the next 82 days, he made a marginal adjustment to his daily routine. He just started knitting, one stitch at a time, absolutely everywhere he went. I'm talking knitting in corporate boardrooms, on trading floors, on airplanes, and even in hospitals. He didn't focus on the massive treat. He only focused on the single stitch right in front of him. And exactly 82 days later, he successfully pulled off his very first yarn bomb. The response to his tree project totally blew him away. So naturally, the micro decisions escalated. He set a new goal to wrap 6 massive boulders in the Los Padres National Forest. And because he had been consistently sharing his journey online, he now had this whole community behind him. He started receiving packages of yarn from 388 contributors across all 50 US states and 36 different countries. And the result? He didn't just wrap 6 boulders, he ended up wrapping 18 massive boulders. The snowball effect of these small decisions is truly staggering when you just give it a little time and consistency. Eventually, Duneier realized he didn't even really like knitting, but he did like crocheting. He started making these standard 7-inch crocheted granny squares. But keeping true to his incredibly ambitious nature, he asked himself, why should I stop at 7 inches? He started making them bigger and bigger. He went to the Guinness World Records website to see what the current record was, only to find there was no category for it. So he applied and they rejected him. He appealed and they rejected him again. He appealed a third time, and they finally told him that if he made a square 10 meters by 10 meters, they would create a brand new category just for him. Well, he accepted the challenge. For the next 2 years, 7 months and 17 days, he returned to his core philosophy, one stitch at a time. The sheer volume of this project is it's mind-boggling. It took more than 500,000 stitches. It required incorporating more than 30 miles of yarn. It was an incredibly daunting task, but it was accomplished entirely by an unfocused guy who simply made the tiny daily decision to pick up his crochet hook and make the next stitch instead of aimlessly scrolling on his phone.
And this brilliantly illustrates the entire core of our explainer today. Stephen Duneier is now the official Guinness World Record holder for the largest crocheted granny square. He's been featured in global magazines and news outlets all over the place. But he remains a self-proclaimed C- student who still cannot focus for more than 10 minutes at a time. He possesses zero special magical talent. He simply takes massive, seemingly impossible projects, breaks them down into their absolute simplest form, and makes marginal improvements to his routine to guarantee they get done.
Which brings us to the final and definitely the most important question for you. What ambitious goal have you been keeping on the shelf? You know, the one you're putting off until retirement or telling yourself you simply aren't talented enough to achieve. You now have the exact blueprint to make it happen. You don't need a massive leap. You just need to make the right micro decision on the couch today. So what will your one marginal adjustment be right now? Thank you so much for watching this explainer, and we will catch you next time.